Hey there, welcome. This is the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Happy Monday, let's go. Well, we almost started World War III this weekend. A little bit of excitement happening while I was stuffing my face with the free rolls from Texas Roadhouse. I get some alerts on my phone and I have to go look at the news, and oh my goodness, a swarm of stuff has been launched from Iran in the general direction of Israel. And look, I am no foreign policy expert. You aren't either, but we both knew how this was going to go. Either all these things are going to get shot down, or this could be the start of something that upends world peace for a while here. Well, best case scenario from that point on sort of happened, where almost all of the projectiles were shot down and were harmless in the long run. So now we're left trying to pick up some of the pieces. Is my guest blocked out? What's going on here? Yeah, no. So we actually broke in to do live coverage, and that was fantastic. On WBAP, we cut in, and the fun part about that is when we cut in is about the time the missiles were dropping, the drones were getting there. And I've done radio for over 20 years. We have never really had the ability to sort of live broadcast an attack that's happening. Like, we didn't know it was going to happen before the day started. And then somebody got some heads up because your President Joe Biden cuts his weekend trip to Delaware short to come back to the Situation Room. We all got a notice about that. What's Iran done? It seems like they've launched a swarm of drones. Someone asked Iran, you launched a swarm of drones? And they said, yeah, in fact, there's some missiles in there too, buddy. Y'all have fun with that. And I learned some things over the weekend. I did a little reading for you. It turns out that if you launched one of these older model unmanned aerial vehicles, the UAVs, we call them drones, but we often think of the drones as those little quadcopter things that can hover and buzz around and take pictures for the news and things like that. But these aren't the drones like that. These are the drones that are like tiny little airplanes without a human being in them. Well, we didn't know if they had missiles on them. We didn't know if they had bombs on them, or if they just had C4 and they were going to kamikaze into a building, or if they were going to come by and take pictures, if they were going to drop pink balloons as some sort of gender reveal party. We didn't know. So we go on the air and we're figuring this out as it's happening. And I thought that was incredible. Also, what's incredible is the as it's happening part was people just like you and me, just happen to be born on the other side of the planet, pulling out their cell phones, pointing it at the sky, and sending you via social media the video of what they're seeing in real time. And it looked like a game of Missile Command. You know that game you used to play at the skating rink with the little roller ball and the missiles are coming in and you got to save all the little city buildings by blowing up another missile under them? And it looks so much like that. It was kind of freaking me out. Okay, so we have minimum damage, minimum casualties. I think one person died. What? Say it in my ear. Oh, say it in my ear. I'm sorry. I had you off. Okay, well, let's get him then. All right, Dave McCloskey, former CIA analyst, is with us. So from the point of view of a guy who knows a little more in depth about this foreign policy stuff, what is your takeaway from the blocked Iranian attack on Israel this weekend?
Hey, well, thanks for having me. I think, there's a bit of an oversimplification, but I don't think it's too far off. I think you can look at this through the lens of kind of a playground fight to some degree. The Israelis a few weeks ago bombed the Iranian consulate in Damascus, killed a number of IRGC officials, kind of threw a punch. The Iranians, in pretty spectacular fashion, have punched back, although in a calculated way to avoid massive loss of civilian life and to target military facilities for the most part, but in a pretty significant demonstration of their capabilities. And then sort of created a situation here where both sides have an opportunity kind of go to their respective corners and call it a win. So, I'm cautiously optimistic that there will be an opportunity, that there is an opportunity here for de-escalation in the region. But, we're in a cycle here where a lot is going to depend on what the Israeli response looks like and whether it creates the kind of situation where we might see another escalation.
Well, the turnout seems so lopsided, it's barely believable. I've seen reports that more than half of the things that the Iranians fired, whether it's an unmanned aerial vehicle, a rocket, or a missile or whatever, either didn't get off the launch pad, crashed, missed their target. We shot down most of the other ones. And then I saw another report that some of the unmanned aerial vehicles didn't fire missiles or drop bombs. That they were just intended to crash into their target kamikaze style. And it almost seems like the Iranians didn't take this very serious.
Well, this was a pretty significant attack. I do think. The Iranians were not trying to kill as many Israelis as they could. I think they were attempting what they saw as a quote-unquote proportional response, right, to try to target the military facilities that actually attacked their consulate in Damascus. But this was absolutely not the way you go if you're trying to maximize Israeli civilian casualties, right? This is a demonstration of political will, of military capabilities. To your point, I think the Iranians had telegraphed this for going on 2 weeks, giving the Israelis, us, the Jordanians, the Royal Air Force, the French, other parties who took, played a role in defeating these missiles and drones, gave a lot of time for everyone to prepare themselves for this. So they were not attempting to kill a lot of people. They were attempting to demonstrate, I think, some muscle to respond. And, although they'd probably prefer if more had gotten through, I think they can, the Iranians can look at this and say, look, we got to win. That's at least how they'll play it internally.
All right, David McCloskey, tell me if I'm wrong. It feels like Iran was throwing a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and really to see how we would react, to see if we would stand by side and actually participate in the shooting down of missiles and drones. If they could just send enough projectiles to overwhelm what the Israelis themselves can do and sort of force us into the battlefield. And that's why they sent their junk drones. That's why they sent their old stuff or their crummy missiles or the ones that didn't work so well.
Well, I think this was certainly a test of the Israelis' air defense capabilities, the long-range strategic stuff like the Arrow and David Sling. They used Hezbollah and some Iraqi militias to fire shorter-range rockets that would have been intercepted by some of the more tactical systems. This was a massive test of Israelis' air defense and sort of anti-missile capabilities. To your point, it's a test of Israel's, alliance structure and the capabilities therein, mostly us, and our ability and willingness to target projectiles that are being lobbed at Israel. I don't think that the Iranians believed for a second that we would stand by and not participate in the defense. It seems, although I'm not reading the intel right now, it seems like the Iranians telegraphed to us in the days beforehand that they were not going to target American facilities or people in the region. So I think this was a sort of an opportunity again for this proportional response. And hey, a bunch of junk drones and things like that crash as a result. It's kind of no harm, no foul for the Iranians. Stepping out more broadly to the strategic picture for a second, region in chaos. The Iranians are, they didn't even need to respond for a lot of the regional winds to be blowing their direction. So I think they can chalk it up to some degree as a win.
Well, there's a lot of weird stuff going on about this attack that I haven't seen. So thank you for helping us out. David McCloskey, former CIA analyst. Thanks for being on the James Show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and look, are you supposed to telegraph your attacks like that? I know we do it sometimes, and we make fun of ourselves whenever we do it, but okay, that was weird. So now we're dealing with the aftermath. Biden says he's seeking a diplomatic response. Steve Scalise already tweeted, there needs to be consequences. And we have protests flaring up across the country. And I'd like to hear from you, your thoughts on the aftermath of the sort of failed Iranian attack on Israel. 800-288-9227. 800-288-WBAP. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. It's April 15th, and most years we'd be saying, hey, it's tax day. How'd you feel turning in that tax return or filling out that check, or should we even have taxes? What do you think something tax-related? Nah. No, not this year. We almost stumbled our way into World War III. We almost fell up the stairs into World War III with this attack. And look, now that we've had 48 hours to digest this and actually look at what happened, this seemed a lot more serious at the time, but how are we supposed to know? how one of the unique things about this situation is that in the, decades that Israel has not been getting along with some of these other countries in the Middle East, Iran has said a lot. They've done a lot of attacks through proxies. They've handed off rockets to Houthis and Hezbollah and whoever else, but they've never actually launched an attack on Israel from Iran. This is the first direct military attack between the two countries. You can't say that about most countries. You can't say, in the Middle East at least. You can't say that about, Lebanon or Syria or Egypt or Jordan or some of these other countries. Even Iraq, you remember during the first Gulf War, Saddam Hussein's over there lobbing Scud missiles over Jordan, with his fingers crossed, hoping they don't get shot down by a Patriot missile. So we've sort of seen similar things like this before from other countries, but this is the first time it was Iran. Not that that's like, hey, that's cool, let's put a thumbtack in the map. That's not a good thing. But it is notable, and anytime something different like that happens, you got to ask yourself why. What's different about this time? What's different about 2024 that wasn't there? And I'm not going to sit here and be political and say it's all Joe Biden's fault. But it's a decent question to ask. I'm not a big fan of the whole "it's Joe Biden's fault" situation, and so the fact that these groups of people in the Middle East, they hadn't really been getting along for a long time. They hadn't been getting along your entire lifetime and the lifetime of your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents, and really going all the way back to Moses, pretty much. These people have not been... It's one of the least calm places in the world. That's the nice way to put it. If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all. But there's been a lot of hay made about this quote, and I was playing it when we broke in on the coverage on Saturday, the WBAP special coverage. It was just last week that Joe Biden was asked about the warnings from Iran. Iran's been saying for 2 weeks, hey, man, there sure is an attack imminent coming from us to Israel. Sure not going to be a surprise when that happens. So Biden was asked about it, and he had the one-word reply, don't.
Let me say again, to any country, any organization, anyone thinking of taking advantage of this situation, I have one word: don't. Don't.
And that's not really a foreign policy, but I get what you're saying there. When you have a guy who's the President Roomba and he's not real good with the intricacies and articulations of something complex, and you want to prep him to go out there and say something that sounds good, that poll tests good, that's almost impossible to criticize, just give him one word. Hard to screw that up. And look, he's done this before. He has said the same thing. Well, what's your message to Hezbollah when they say that they're going to make another attack? Don't. What's your message to Hamas when they say that the killings are going to continue? Don't. I have one word for them. Don't. I think he said that to Syria. He gave him the old don't, and he does the sort of whisper, dude, don't. Well, it didn't work. Didn't work. I don't know if he would have said something different. They probably would have attacked it. And the reason why I'm not overly critical of that is Iran was going to do this whether or not Biden went out there and went, don't. But the point still stands that don't was not an effective deterrent. So now we're stuck with this. And good. I am almost happy in situations like this that we have a guy who's, I don't want to say he's a puppet, but he's not the brainchild. He's behind the machine that got him into power and is maintaining his power. There's somebody telling him what to do. He references them. I can't take any more questions, or these people are going to kill me, or they told me I only have time for one question. Who is they? Who is telling you, the president, what to do? And then, oh, man, it's so weird that when there's an attack going, you can pick up your phone. You can go to social media. I went to X, and I am watching the rockets fall on my phone. I mean, I barely made it home from Roadhouse before the rockets started falling, and I'm listening to it. This is it. So that's what air raid sirens sound like if you're within camera distance of the Dome of the Rock. It's technically the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's that big gold dome thing you see. And it's in Jerusalem, just on the Muslim side. It's the third most holy site in Islam, built on the Temple Mount. And I don't know why they were trying to knock that down. That doesn't make any sense other than, hey, let's see if we can do something to provoke more chaos in the area. Seems to be the only goal with that. But then the videos of the missiles getting shot down, that's wild. I saw a video of a missile hitting what was reported to be one of Bibi Netanyahu's residences. Apparently he has more than one. This was the one in his hometown, and he was off in, I don't know, Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, one of the two capitals, getting business done. And so I don't think anyone was killed in that. I did have a report of one casualty, but that means someone could have hit their shin on the coffee table running away. I did see a handful of rockets actually hit an airstrip about 30 kilometers, whatever that is, south of Beersheba, which the only reason I remember that is because it's mentioned in the Bible, you know, from Dan to Beersheba. That's still a town. It's still a thing. It's weird when this stuff overlaps with the Bible. So that'll get you all caught up. Coming up next, I'm gonna get you broken down on some of these protests that have popped up in a few major American cities around America. If you have any comments on that, 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, come meet me at WeatherCon. Not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday, 9:30 to 1:30. We're going to be at the Frontiers of Flight Museum. For anyone, if you're interested in weather, you know, climatology, meteorology, things falling out of the sky, generally speaking, storm chasing vehicles, scientific presentations, something educational to do with your kids. That's what WeatherCon's for. And when I say we, I mean myself, WBAP Chief Meteorologist Brad Barton, and then the meteorology team over at our news partner, WFAA. Come on out. It's the 27th at the Frontiers of Flight Museum at Love Field. Now, we had the attack, or really an attempted attack by Iran on Israel. And one of the results that you're seeing now, maybe not in our own town, but at least on TV, is there's a handful of protests that have popped up over the country. Anti-Israel protests have popped up across the country. They have right now, as we speak, right now, as you're driving around or working or whatever you're doing, minding your own business, right now there's a handful of people that are blocking the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. They're blocking the entrance to Chicago's O'Hare Airport, I believe is what I saw. And then there was another situation where something was blocked off in New York City somewhere. I don't think it was like Times Square or something like that. But they have another one going on in New York City.
New York City!
Now, this is all elective. And we know this because when they tried this here in January, some anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian, whatever, protesters tried to block the entrance to Dallas Love Field. That happened in your backyard in January. I reported it to you on the James Show. And what happened? The Dallas Police Department, they showed up, they put every single one of them in cuffs, and they put them in the back of a vehicle, and they drove them away. They grabbed all the signs and the little things that they were using to block the road, and they got rid of them, and the airport was open. Immediately, it was just cleared away. You go stand in the street, guess what? That's illegal. Cuffs, it's over. All these protests are elective. Anytime a highway is blocked for a political protest, it's elective, which means right now in the three biggest metropolitan areas, or three of the biggest metropolitan areas, I should say, everyone that is stuck in that traffic, everyone that's late for work, everyone that's missing their flight, everyone that's late for picking up their sick kid because he called in at school, there might be people on the way to the hospital. All of this suffering that is happening to people right now is happening with the blessing of their elected leaders. It's happening with the blessing of the law enforcement community there. Now, maybe not the boots on the ground, but the guys in charge, absolutely. So let's re-examine this here, because now it's not a protest. If your protest has the blessing of the cops, if your protest has the blessing of elected officials, the blessing of your society's elites, well, it's not really a protest now, is it? But protests are when you don't like what the powers that be are doing, and you want to send a message that you disagree with the powers that be. You want to go interrupt so you can get your message to them. But when the cops are standing behind the line of protesters, I just saw it on Fox News. There's a line of protesters blocking the middle of the Golden Gate Bridge. There's a line of them. Behind them, interspersed, not quite in a shoulder-to-shoulder line, but there's a few of them there, is a line of cops. So even if you do plow through the protesters, you're going to hit a cop, and then you'll have problems. So there's no such thing. They are preventing even the citizens who want to plow through the protesters, because you certainly could if you wanted to. They're preventing them because they're putting cops behind them. They're reinforcing the protest. So you guys in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, you're not some rebel sticking it to the man. You're working with the man. You are a useful idiot. And I don't mean that as pejorative. I mean the political communist term. You're the brown shirts in this scenario. You're the black shirts if you want to do the Italian parlance. You're the one that is being used to intimidate other citizens for political purposes. Now, if that sounds familiar, that's the definition of some word. I can't think of it. What's the word where you have violence or threats to intimidate or coerce a civilian population into furthering a political or social or ideological objective? Oh yeah, that's right. That's called terrorism. Oh, silly me. I thought it was, I couldn't remember the word. You are the useful tools of the man. You are not a rebel. You are not bravely standing up for justice. The elites are thanking you for going out there and doing their dirty work for them. And look, I don't hate you protesters. For the most part, I'm sure you think your heart's in the right place. And I admire the fact that you're taking time out of your day and putting your own, I don't know, you're not really putting anything at risk. Even if you do get in jail in one of these places, you're going to get kicked right out. But yeah, I mean, they're doing more than most people do. They're doing more than you've done for your political causes. They're just being used, and it's embarrassing to watch. Embarrassing, but make no mistake about it, because we saw this exact same thing try to happen in the largest major American city that doesn't have a Democrat mayor. And what happened? Got shut down in 5 seconds. All of this suffering for people is elective. They want you to suffer. The police, the city council, the mayor, and in these places, probably even the governor and the state representatives that they have, they want you to suffer. They want it to be painful. They want you to be reminded about this. They want this to be top of mind. They don't want you to go on about your day. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. I don't revel in saying this. I'm not saying this for hyperbole or as a pejorative or to be propagandistic. But if you are one of the active participants in these protests and the police are standing behind you, you are committing an act of terrorism. You are trying to intimidate your fellow citizens for ideological purposes in ways that you can't do legally. And if you do so with the blessing, you're not a rebel. You're a brown shirt. 800-288-9227. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.